Welcome to We the People. I'm your host, Dave Gallus, and I am running for New Mexico State Senate District 37, and we have a special guest today, Isabella Solis. She is running for New Mexico State Representative District 37, and she is currently my county commissioner in District 4. So Isabella, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on today.
This should be a good one. We're going to go back and forth. It's going to be like a co-host here. So I'm going to start off with, we seem to have an awful lot of division in our politics now between the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, you being a former Democrat turned Republican, you have an insight on the Democratic mind, the way things go, and I do know that we have to bridge that gap. So what are your suggestions on how we can reach across the table without throwing tomatoes at each other?
Right. You know, Dave, I really believe that we have more common ground than what we think. I've talked to a lot of people at the door, and you know, they're beginning to see things quite differently with the shutdown. I think they've had a lot of time to sit home and think about what's really going on. And I was a lifelong Democrat. And my grandmother was one, my parents were one, and it just seemed like that was just the way we were supposed to do. It's more traditional. But as I am thinking about that, I am really thinking, why are all Hispanics Democrats?
Yeah, I often wondered that myself.
And so I began to think about that, and I realized that as individuals, I think that there is something inside every individual that has a desire to be a part of something. To be a part of something, like I belong to this party, I belong to this organization. So there's a deep, I would say, calling or desire in individuals to be able to be a part of something. So now that they've become a part of this party, it's kind of like it belongs to them and you don't want to let go. And so I sense that when I talk to some people, but...
You don't like to let go of tradition.
That's true.
And I mean, you know, Democratic Party is a party of generosity, not that the Republican Party is not, but we just have different ideas about how to go about being generous.
That's exactly right, and I think that that's where we are today, and people have had a lot of time to really think about it. As I've talked to a few people on the phone, they're saying, well, I'm actually a Democrat, and so I'll ask them, I say, well, are you one of those that votes straight ticket? And they'll say, well, no, I'm not.
Well, that's good.
And so that was a good response. I'm happy to hear that people are really starting to think about outside the box. And that's what we need, because we all do have common ground.
I have a lot of Democratic friends, and sometimes I just do not understand why we can't connect. And, you know, they hate President Trump. It's like, well, you know, I have 4 pages of information to say what he has done for the Hispanics, for the black community. And it's like, he's trying to unify the country. Now, I'll tell you the truth. When I first saw him on TV, when he had his TV show, it was, what was it, The Apprentice. He was firing people left and right, and I thought, he's such a mean son of a gun. And he is coarse and he is rough, but I'll tell you what, it seems like the way our country's going, we need a bulldog with teeth, and he's the one to do it. And he's, just today, he signed the USMCA deal with Mexico, and that's going to be good for our workers, it's going to be good for Mexican workers, it's going to be a good trade deal. Now, I understand that Trudeau in Canada, he kind of snubbed Mexico and the U.S. right now. I don't know why, but I don't know, maybe he's not getting the deal he wants. But so, you know, we have to unify the parties. And I wouldn't want to see, and I know you don't want to see, just Democrats or just Republicans in any legislature. We need to have voices.
I think that we need a balanced government, and to be able to get the perspective from a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. Sure. And I really feel like as a community commissioner, I really feel like I need to be that person that brings us all together, and that includes Republicans, independents, and Democrats. And I'm excited about being able to pull all of us together.
Well, I remember I would go to commissioners' meetings, and Ben Rawson was there, and it was really good to hear you folks. And I didn't even know what you were, Democrat, Republican. I couldn't tell. You have traditional values, and you've always had that. You've always shown that to the audience. And it just seems like lately, though, you're overwhelmed with a different ideology than what traditional values are. So,
well, I think, you know, Dave, I just really realized that I don't really work for a party. I really work for the people, and I don't identify myself as, you know, a Democrat or Republican, even though people ask me. But that's not important. What's important is that that person work for the community and listen to our constituents.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, Dave, I want to one of your main platforms is education. I'd like for you to elaborate a little bit on what that platform looks like.
Well, the education to me is twofold. It's certainly the education of our students, but I'll start with the education of the people, the electorate, the people that vote or can vote. You know, we don't have enough people that engage in the voting process. We have like about a 50% turnout of voter. And it's like, holy smoke, folks. Mm-hmm. And I've understood that the churches, which I would think would be everybody be voting in churches, only 25% of the churches vote. Half of the church is registered and the other half don't vote. It's like, holy smoke. In our city elections, when you were running for mayor, some people lost the election by 8 votes. Mm-hmm. One church congregation could have changed the whole thing. So, you know, so it's not just a matter of voting. Of course, you have to be registered to vote. Folks, you need to be registered to vote. It's very simple to do. You go down to the county building, or I'm a voter registration agent. Isabella is too. We'll be glad to register people to vote. I have a phone number that's on the screen, and you can call me. I'll get somebody to you, and we'll get you registered to vote. And it doesn't matter what party you register, but this is your voice. If you don't vote, you have no choice. You have no voice. Don't be complaining over a beer or a cup of coffee and saying, oh, this politics is terrible. If you're not voting, you shouldn't say a word. So it's not only do you have to vote, but you have to know who you're voting for. Now, the fellow I'm running against, Bill Solis, he has a track record. He's been in office for 8 years. Now, you can find out how he's voted on different bills. If it's consistent with the way you feel, that's fine. Then the folks, they can vote him in. If you like what I say, and you can check my track record, I don't have a voting record except for just being a voter, but I was a Philadelphia policeman for 25 years. I worked at the post office in New Jersey for 13 years as an electronic technician. Mm-hmm. Folks can call where I worked. Philadelphia Police Department, if I remember right, is MU6-1776.
You still remember.
A good number. But so you can find out about me, you can hear what I have to say, but you have to know what the platforms are of the voter, of the candidates, and the folks that are in office now. So
that's right.
So
Dave, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about school choice? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's been a biggie for me. It's like, well, first off, our education system, the public education system, is not working for us in New Mexico. We are the worst in the nation. Mm-hmm. Out of 50 states, we're 50. Sometimes we're 49. We go back and forth. But to me, that's a losing thing. And I thought, well, why is it that we don't have choice? The government collects our money.
Yes.
And also uses our natural resources, which New Mexico has a lot of natural resources, and a lot of that money goes to education.
We should be prospering in this state.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And our education system, it's a rich person or a person that has more money can spend extra money to send their kids to a private school. Mm-hmm. I spend extra money to send my daughters to a Catholic school because I wanted a better education. But that's extra money that people shouldn't have to pay. Mm-hmm. How about the poor people? They can't afford to send their kids to a private school, or they can't afford a second job because they have to take care of kids. It's like, it's not fair. So the government takes our money and gives it to us as they see fit. And to me, the public education system is a monopoly. Mm-hmm. If there's no competition and you're not working under the free market enterprise system, the competition will give you the best product, in this case education, for the best price, for the cheapest price. Now, I know for a fact that we spend in the state of New Mexico somewhere between $10,000 and $14,000 a year per student. Now, I just compared a local school, Mesilla Valley Christian School. It's a private school. And John Foreman, who's also running for a House seat, I think it's 52. Right. Mm-hmm. John Foreman tells me that they spend $5,000 a year per student. And there's no question that it's a better education. In the 40 years that John Foreman has been affiliated with the Mesilla Valley Christian School, they've only had one person that didn't complete high school immediately. She took her GED and then completed the course. So they had no dropouts whatsoever.
So that's a pretty good record there for a private school.
Well, for any school, and even in New Mexico, the average dropout rate in New Mexico is 25 to 30%.
So we have an issue with the education system currently, the way you're describing. Mm-hmm. So right now we're facing a challenge with the pandemic and with the governor shutting the schools down. What do you think should be happening? Do you think that students should be going back to school? I mean, what are those? What does that look like? I mean, I've talked to some people about that, and some of them think that we should stay home and just wait. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
From what I understand, children are the least likely to have ill effects from the COVID-19. They can recover. They're strong. The only issue, I would think, could be school teachers if they're very old. But then again, they could wear protective covering. But I think the kids need to go back to school. The parents can't go to work. When we finally open up with businesses, the parents are going to have a problem, because what are they going to do with the kids?
Right.
So to me, the schools should be opened up. The president's trying to get these schools opened up.
Well, I know that I talked to a lady not long ago, and she was telling me whenever they were doing the virtual learning, she did not speak English, and so she had to have her oldest son help her teach the younger child that was in elementary.
Okay.
So that was a challenge that really we're not even looking at or talking about. So how is that going to work? And then what about if that mother has to go to work? What's going to happen there?
That's a big problem. You know, I also think, now I'm a Christian and I believe that the Lord has his hands on a lot of what's going on. It's also challenging us to think differently. It's probably opening us up to different opportunities. I know the Khan Academy is one option that people could take. You have to have the parents engaged in school, and even when things are running smoothly, parents need to know what's going on in the public school system. From what I understand, and in California, they're teaching horrendous stuff to our kids. They're not teaching civics, they're not teaching American history, they're teaching transgender studies to kindergartners. It's like, whoa. I think parents really need to get on board as to what's going on. So the COVID-19, I think it's a challenge, but I think we can overcome the challenge if we do it reasonably.
Yes, you're right.
So,
Yes,
and I think the
absolutely.
School Teachers Union, I wonder, okay, what is the motivation for the School Teachers Union not wanting the schools to open up? Now, they say it's because they want to protect the teachers, but I don't know about that. I think maybe the School Teachers Union is so powerful politically. The fellow I'm running against, he gets a lot of money from the School Teachers Union. And I believe they have School Teachers Union members on the deciding boards that take care of the education system. Why would you have union members or union leaders having anything to do with the school, the curriculum, the studies?
Right.
To me, there's something crooked going on. So,
Like a huge conflict of interest there.
yeah, and if you have school choice, you have options.
Yes.
And I want to be able to send my kids and my grandkids wherever I think is the best place for them to get educated. And it could be a Christian school, it could be a Muslim school, it could be a Jewish school, it doesn't matter. But choices are so important to us all.
And we don't have that today.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you come from a very large family, and you were the oldest in the family, so that must have been a heavy load you had to carry. What was that like?
That's right, Dave. I was the oldest of 8, and I remember my dad, he would always say to me, if anything ever happens to me or your mother, please take care of the family.
Wow.
So that was a big responsibility, right? Take care of the family. I had no idea what that looked like, right? Just thinking about it. But you know, I think that it was important to him that we would take care of one another, and he was all about life. He always favored life, and so it was important, you know, for him to share that with me early on. And even when I was growing up, my daddy and my mom, before they'd go to bed, I'd go into their bedroom sometimes, and so he would start talking about the budget that we had at home.
Oh.
This is how much money we have. He had a business, so this is how much money I need. I'm going to need like $25,000 to buy this truck. And so we were having this discussion. And so I learned a lot of things from him in the bedroom with him and my mom, talking about our budget, our household budget. So as a state representative, as a county commissioner, it is my due diligence to make sure that we appropriate taxpayer money where it needs to be. We need to be people that listen to our community. We need to be able to hear what they're saying. And people have been speaking out very loudly, but people have not been listening. And we need to listen to our community. And that's where I would have to say that that's where a lot of the leadership or a lot of elected officials are not listening. They were doing what they think is best, and they're not listening to the public input.
So we need accountability in our legislature.
Absolutely, I believe so. It's absolutely crucial. And even when they had the special session a few weeks ago,
Right.
I think it was just really disappointing to me
Yes.
that the public was not able to participate. That is our taxpayer dollar, and that is we should know what's happening, where our money is going.
And
I believe that it is so unfair and it is wrong for our leadership to go behind closed doors and take care of our money and not letting us know where it's going until
folks,
afterwards.
You hearing this, folks? Okay, we're going to take a short break and come back and tear this apart. So we'll be right back.
Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. I'm your host, Dave Gallus. The show is We the People. And I'm running for New Mexico State Senate District 37, and we have as our special guest or co-host Isabella Solis, who is a current county commissioner in District 4, but she's running for New Mexico State Representative District 37, which just happens to be in my senatorial district, too. So, Isabella, we're covering a lot of ground here.
Yes.
We stopped just before the break talking about the legislature in Santa Fe, as well as throughout the city, throughout the county. And I know you have a hard time because you're the one, I would say, reasonable voice at the county commission. But so the legislature's not listening, and Santa Fe just had this special session, and it was a closed session, and we weren't even allowed to participate. That's pretty aggravating.
That's really disappointing because I know that there were a lot of people, that called me and talked to me about it, and they were just really disappointed in the leadership and the direction in which they're going. I think that our community, our districts are concerned about their economic security. They're concerned about their community safety. What does that look like? Because if Santa Fe is closed, having a closed session, what are we to think in the community? Yeah, they're concerned about what does safety look like? What is next year going to look like? Are we going to have any money left in the budget to be able to do anything? So I think that we have a lot of concerned citizens. It doesn't matter whether Democrat, Republican, Independent. It has nothing to do with that. I think that we're all really facing the same concerns and issues because of this legislative session that just passed.
Well, I've heard that it's a matter of them kicking the can down the road for the next legislature. Now, whether or not they think they're going to lose the legislature and then whoever gets in is going to be stuck with the problems, I don't know. But
well, I can say that the budget will be very lean in January.
Yeah, we got the oil problem. That was the oil was devalued with the COVID-19, people out of work. It's like, wow, we're getting hit with a double whammy. Now, from what I understand, when the governor came into office, she had a glut of money, and yet she still raised taxes.
Yeah.
What?
Well, Dave, that just goes to show you that the officials are not listening to the community. And that is so important. And even as we are facing this crisis right now, so-called crisis, it is fearful for some people, but for some people, they're ready to go back to work.
Oh, yeah.
And there are people that want to just go back to work to feed their families. And we go back to that community safety, that economic security that they need. What does that look like, in the future? What are we looking at? We have no clue what 6 months from now looks like.
I know.
So it is important that we begin to listen as we're running for office, to continue to listen and to be a voice and an advocate for the community.
Sure.
That's what's lacking.
Okay, I hear you. So there's a few things that on my platform, it's education, jobs, family, and security. And so they all kind of interrelate. Now, I talked about education, but jobs is so important.
Yes.
And so jobs, to me, Texas is eating our lunch when it comes to having plenty of businesses over there. Now, I understand that Governor Abbott actually would go to California to solicit businesses out there and say, look, you're paying a ton of money out in California. You come to Texas, we'll reduce your business taxes, we'll cut regulations, we'll make it real good for you to come here to Texas. And they've got a booming economy in Texas. Why can't we do that here in New Mexico?
Well, it just seems like everywhere we go, every door is shut, and we don't have that opportunity. I was just talking to someone today, Dave, and it is really just heartbreaking, because the business is closed down. They're not working. All his employees are calling, when can we go back to work? And so he told me that he's doing a lot of business in El Paso. A lot of business, and I mean, he's even considering taking his business to El Paso.
Oh, geez.
And so that's really disappointing. And it all goes back to what you just got through saying. Those harsh regulations, the taxes, and they're already at a struggle, and to be able to implement all of this is just going to be really bad for our community and our economy.
I'll bet you half the businesses never open up again.
It's
like, that's sad. That's real sad. So, but it all boils down to the legislature. If you have the right people in office, like us, we're going to listen to the people. We want to see New Mexico thrive. And when I talk about education, well, if we don't have jobs here, where are our students going to go?
Right.
I heard that there's a problem because we don't have a job pool. Well, that could be because the education system isn't doing a good job. But if we don't have businesses, our kids now, and Hispanic communities are very family oriented, so you want to keep your family close just like I do. We don't want our kids leaving the state to go to El Paso, and that's relatively close,
Right.
or Texas, Arizona, Colorado, whatever. But the thing is, if we don't have the businesses for our students to go to, they're going to leave the state, and they're going to leave our families. So, but there's ways that we can work around that. I mean, we could have opportunities with businesses for apprenticeship programs, for school work programs, and all this would be getting the kids ready when they do leave school with a good education, and then they can go into these apprenticeships. And so it can all work together.
Well, Dave, I really just have to say this, that what needs to happen is we need a change in Santa Fe. I mean, we talk about President Trump and, his campaign, and everybody hates Trump. But really, in the state of New Mexico, I want to see New Mexico be great. I want to see New Mexico be good. But, it starts with having good leadership at this level, at the county level, at the state level, and have a good governor that works for the people. And this is what we need to be focused on. And I don't care what Trump is doing right now, because we should concern ourselves about what is going on in the state of New Mexico. And the way we can change things is by people voting for good leadership into office.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. The legislature that we have right now doesn't seem like it's concerned with what the locals want. Even now in Santa Fe, I think it was the Second Amendment that we were knocking around.
Oh, yeah.
And then they were trying to push the red flag laws. There were 500 people at Santa Fe, and they had their guns with them and everything. They were very peaceful. It's probably the safest anybody would ever be in Santa Fe with all those guns. Now, it looked a little scary, but they went to the sessions, and they talked to the governor, and they talked to all the legislators up there. We do not want you messing with our guns. We don't want to have the guns in the hands of people that are dangerous. Right. But if you're going to accuse somebody of a crime that they never did commit, and then take their personal protection away from them, what happens if the burglar breaks into the house and they don't have the gun?
Yeah, but what happened to innocent until proven guilty?
Well, there you go.
It's
not
really
due
such
process.
a violation right there.
So,
I mean, as a matter of fact, I just talked to someone this week. Well, actually, it was last week. And he is a Democrat, and he liked everything I had to say. And we talked about education, and we talked about a few other things. Education was important to him because he's got 5 children. And he says, as a Democrat, he says, I believe in the Second Amendment. I'm a very strong believer in my right of a Second Amendment. And he says that he doesn't vote straight ticket either.
Good.
So that was just very encouraging, because I am beginning to see that people are starting to break out of those habits that I said a while ago, where the Hispanic community is just tied to this this party,
party.
feeling like, you need to belong somewhere.
Sure. If I thought I needed an Abrams tank sitting out on the side of my house to protect me, that's what I'd have.
Right.
Now, fortunately, we're not that bad yet. But, if you look at our cities around the nation, I mean, Minneapolis, Chicago, my city where I worked as a policeman, Philadelphia, there's so many cities that are actually burning because they're not being controlled by the legislature within those cities. And I'm sorry to say, folks, but it's all Democratic-controlled cities. So some of these mayors, like New York and Minneapolis, they want to defund the police. Defund the police? Are they out of their mind? What are you going to do? Have a social worker show up when you have a burglary? It's crazy. It's like so.
Dave, I really believe that when I call 911, I want to see an officer at my door.
Absolutely.
I don't want anybody else but an officer that can come and take care of me and my family in the situation I'm in.
I hear you.
I support our law enforcement. I truly do. I know you do too.
I do, absolutely. And I mean, I work with some rough cops, but back in Philadelphia, it was pretty rough back then. But I wouldn't want to be a cop right now because you can't do your job.
Well, I mean, and now we've got a new law where the officers have to wear a body camera. So that's something that's just come out.
That's, you get one view of what's going on. I mean, I've been on crime scenes where you'll interview witnesses that saw the exact same thing, and they might have been at different locations, but they're three different absolute stories. So when you only see that body cam, you're getting part of the story, that's true, but maybe you're not getting the full story. So I have mixed feelings about body cam. I mean, cops are so weighted down with all the equipment they got, so wonder you can even move.
Just to add one more thing to it, yeah, that's right. I totally understand that.
Well,
yes.
This show went really fast. We're about a minute out. So,
okay.
So, folks, you can contact myself, Dave Gallus, running for New Mexico State Senate. Isabella, I'll let you tout yourself here.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Yes, as a county commissioner, I am just very fortunate to have this opportunity in the great state of New Mexico and in America to be able to have this opportunity to run for New Mexico State Representative. And I need your vote November 3rd.
Very good. You got my vote.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's it for this week. We'll be back again, and hopefully we'll get Isabella back on the show again. And we might look like we're in the same clothes again, so don't worry about that. We'll have them cleaned. So we'll see you next week.